All right, ladies and gentlemen, shout out to the IPA, the International Passport Association. Official merch should be in the store below. Shop at the Dr. Mike TV store, get your merch already. Let's lock in. I want to share with you a story that I found to be super interesting. As many of you guys know, Doc is an educator of sorts. I work within a school system. That is what the day job is. That's what the W-2 is all about. And in this particular story, it covers a Kansas teacher who was fired because she did not call a student by their preferred pronouns. As a result of her getting fired, she felt as though it went against her religious beliefs in order for her to be able to call a child by these pronouns because it wasn't what she believed in. And as a result, she refused. But in consequence to her suing the school system, or the response to her was, or the response she gave was suing the school system, and she was awarded $95,000. I will leave the link in the description area below for the entire article for you guys to read. But this is the interesting thing from the teacher perspective, okay? Where I work at, right? We've had constant conversations with our admins about these pronouns, right? Because I have a young lady in my class right now who goes by a different name, but we are referred to, or we have to by law call her by the name in which she is given at birth, right? Your legal first and your legal last name. There's no way around it, right? So regardless of how you personally feel about the name attachment, we as your instructors cannot change that for you. For us, a parent has to give written consent that a child can be recognized by this name that they want to go by. And it has to be approved, and all of it. There has to be steps in order for us to change a child's name in the class. And that falls along the lines of the pronouns as well. And I think this particular teacher was told by other students and other people that the child preferred to go by these particular pronouns. So she felt the best way to go about it was to call this person Miss and by her legal last name. Apparently that did not go over well in the midst of trying to find a compromise. Did not go over well. And as a result, she was sent to the office and thus let go that day. I don't know if it was a suspension before she quit, or maybe it was a suspension that led to her quitting. I don't think she was fired, but she could have been. But yeah, this is always an interesting topic of conversation because this is something that I deal with on a regular basis. I haven't had any issues with any of my kids getting mad at me, calling them Mr. and or Miss and their legal last name. Nobody's ever really came at me like that, but there is a lot of students who actually prefer to go by different pronouns and by different names. And I can't do that legally. Like, my admin tell you straight up, yo, they have to by law be called by their names. Unless they got a name change legally, or unless this, that, and the other, unless there's parent consent or whatever that is that goes involved with that, I cannot call that child by any other name than the name that they were given by birth. Right? And I want you guys to understand this is always something, and this is always going to be one of those issues that come up in the school system, because as the world turns and as the world changes and as we get into different dynamics and different representations and different ways of identifying ourselves, you gotta start to understand that this is always going to come up. This is always going to be a thing. But for me, I kind of feel like I wish somebody would try to fire me for trying to be respectful to a child, calling them by their legal last name and the name that they were given. I wish somebody would try that shit with me. Oh, I will sue your ass. I will sue your ass. And I think she deserved more than $95,000. I mean, $95,000 honestly is a good little chunk of change. I ain't gonna sleep on it. 95 is definitely a good little chunk of change. But for me, I felt like I was wronged, but I have to, this is where things get sticky and tricky, because I have to call a spade a spade. Granted, we are required as professional or premier professionals and instructors to call children by their legal first and last name. But also, I fall along the lines of we have got to find a way to keep religion and stuff like that outside of the class. Like, that's something that should not be involved in our decision making on what we choose to do and whether we choose to call somebody by this name or that name, right? I understand that in her mind it went against her religious beliefs, and I don't believe that she was really bringing out her religious beliefs within the classroom and being like that, but it did somewhat complicate her ability to be able to say, okay, well, maybe we can come up with a different compromise by the name that which we're going to call, like what name we could call you or your pronouns or whatever, right? Like that. There's always going to be that. I don't really believe in bringing politics, religion, and all that stuff within the school system around children and shit, because that's definitely complicates a lot of things, right? There was a teacher that got fired in my school district, maybe not in my district, but I believe she was an elementary school teacher. And I think she said her daddy voted for Joe Biden. I don't even know how the conversation came up, but let's just say the child ended up saying something like, my daddy voted for Joe Biden or some shit, and the fucking teacher blew up. Like, oh, so your daddy voted for the person that's gonna blah, 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 basically say mess up the United States, some shit like that. So she ended up getting fired, So you have to be careful with stuff like that. Sometimes people will do that shit to bait you. You know this, man. Doc ain't telling you nothing brand new. Sometimes motherfuckers will come up in there just to bait you to see what they can get you to do, get you out of pocket, and get you out your pivot. Especially if there is a teacher that they're trying to get fired. I've known kids that got a teacher fired in middle school because they didn't like her, so they went and accused the teacher of saying certain things and doing certain things, and they got their friends to co-sign on it. And you know how it is when you hear multiple kids coming up with the same story because they rehearsed this fucking story and they ended up getting a teacher fired, and it was all a lie. So it's definitely a struggle to work within a school system like this one. But now that we're dealing with pronouns and different types of identities and stuff like that, it does make it a little bit more complicated. Like I said, luckily I haven't really dealt with any of those issues within my particular setting, in my environment, and usually my people got my back because I'm only doing what, like I said, the admins tell you. You got to do what they tell you to do, and if this is what it is and there's no legal precedence or general policy and or against something, I got to keep pushing the way that they tell you to push. But there's always going to be that one that really wants to fight the system, right? So I'm expecting it to come one way or another. We'll just have to figure it out when it comes. But for me, guys, I want to know what you guys think about it. Do you think the teacher was a little bit overreactive in how she was talking, not necessarily talking to the kids, but her response to the kid wanting to be called her, he, she, they, them, whatever pronouns that they wanted to go by? Do you believe she was justified in her way? Do you believe that she deserved more money? Do you believe she didn't deserve any money at all? Comment section below, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know. I appreciate you guys locking in. This has been a good Doc, man. Y'all take care. Y'all stay blessed, man. Doc is out. Peace.